But again, without writers, we would never have these programs, which leads me to our next conversation about the writer's strike. Because there's some updates right now, what's been happening. And of course, we've been talking about programs being shut down, programs being stopped with picketers, and they're being forced to stop down. Well, right now, we have this whole update now with the producers and the showrunners. Now, the producers what's happening is they're impacting the overall deals right now. So the major studios have started sending out letters to writer producers under overall and first look contracts and telling them that they're going to suspend their contracts because they said before, it was last week, they put a little thing out saying, hey, we get the WGA striking, but you have scripts, you have crew, you have cast, get to fucking work. That's what they said. And so these people are like, but there's a writer's strike happening. So why would we cross the picket line? We're not going to cross the picket line. And they said, well, if you don't, you're breaching your contract. And we can actually terminate your contract if you want. So this is how it starts. It happened before in the past with previous writer's strike where they suspended people's contracts. They didn't get to work because, of course, the Teamsters wouldn't cross the picket lines, which led to cast not crossing the picket lines. And that led to productions shutting down. Same thing's happening. Warner Brothers sent these things out. Universal, CBS, Disney, 20th Century, ABC, they all sent these out. Sony's apparently sending theirs out now. And now the streaming services, this is the first time they're doing this. Netflix, Amazon, they're contemplating it, but they're probably going to do the same thing and send them to their showrunners and be like, hey, we're suspending your contract. We're not going to pay you because you're not shooting when you're supposed to be shooting. So that's what happens when this goes down. Now, here's the productions right now that have stopped, just so you know.
It's like they don't know how strikes work.
That's how it works. It's like they don't know. But Stranger Things shut down, Daredevil Born Again, Wonder Man, Blade, the new Blade movie was shooting, that shut down, Hacks, Billions, American Horror Story, Severance, Yellow Jackets, the Game of Thrones spinoff, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, that was writing. They shut that down right now. Evil, Cobra Kai, Abbott Elementary, Bunked, Loot, Night Court, like that's just some of the ones that have shut down right now. And you're going to see that everything is going to shut down because as the Stranger Things, the Duffer Brothers said, it's like, yes, we have scripts written. Yes, we could keep shooting right now, but there's more writing that happens on the day that we can't do with a WGA strike. So we have to shut down. And that's how it should be, because if anybody knows anything about being on set, there's always writers there. And that's one of the things they're fighting for is more writers on set so that the story can keep its integrity. Wherever they shoot or they write on the day, they want to keep that integrity and make it be their story moving forward. So without these writers, you can't do anything. And I said it was going to happen before, and it was just inevitable for it to actually start shutting down. And now they are because you don't have writers on set, guys. It's a no-brainer. You can't shoot. A showrunner can't shoot. And of course, it's a breach of contract in a way, but at the end of the day, there's a strike. So this is what it is. So they suspend everybody, and now we just sit on hold when no one gets paid. That's what a strike is.
Something a lot of people don't think about too, when you're on set and you're filming, even when an actor's like, I'm going to change my line, I want to say it like this, they need a writer there to write that in. Like it has to be cataloged.
Yes,
they need that for the editors. They need it for, what's happening in the scene for the script supervisor. Like the writers are very fucking necessary. Yeah. They don't just write and then be like, all right, here's the episode, go film it. It doesn't work like that. They're there all the time. They're hard workers. They do what needs to be done, and they do not get a lot of credit that they deserve. And I am rooting for them. And unlike, no offense, the SAG, my union, Local 399, they are there. We're part of the strike. We're supporting it. Not part of, excuse me, that's the wrong saying. We're not a part of it. We are supporting it. From day one, we've been there to support it. And we've been told, if you don't want to cross the picket line, don't cross the picket line.
Yeah. And that's how
we're not being forced to go in. Now I'm with the locations department. I'm not a Teamster driver. I know some of them they had more questions when it came to this, because every union that's trying to support the writers union, they're all trying to figure out how to navigate this and show their support without also losing their benefits and their jobs. And thankfully, so far, it seems like everyone's like, hey, if you want to go out there and picket. If you want to go to work, go to work. If you don't want to cross the line, don't cross the line. Like it's really nice seeing that there is support behind this. They deserve this. And with all the streaming services, there's no more physical media. So it's not like you can give them royalties for a movie. I mean, other than myself, maybe you guys, not a lot of people buy physical copies of movies anymore.
It's going away.
They stopped making DVDs. It's all Blu-rays and 4K, and that'll probably go out soon. I'm probably have to start getting a digital collection going on. So streamers have it. The streaming services, they have it. They're the new studios. They're the new big dogs in town. I don't know why in their fucking mind they haven't realized that what happened, almost 15 years ago, they didn't take that serious moving forward. Like, I don't know why they think like, oh, well, we're just not going to do it. And
This is the union
I
that'll
want to I
strike.
want to get my thoughts right here. The thing that bothers me is the writers came to them, the union came to them, they gave them what they wanted, they gave them their list of demands, and it was all sent back. And all the major demands that they had, there wasn't even a counter offer made. It was just like, nope, here you go, take this shit and walk. And it's like, you didn't even offer a counter offer. Like, you didn't offer any suggestion, nothing. Like, they didn't even look at it. So of course we're in a fucking strike right now.
Yeah, that's going to end it right there. Well, they had a little bit of back and forth last week, or the last weekend before the strike. There was a little bit, but it was like, I mean, they offered them it was like nothing. It was like 70 million over 3 years, and WGA wanted about, it was like 500 million over that. So I mean, it's like it was like nothing. And they were comparing it to like Zaslav, how much he makes a year, which is like it's insane. They were saying with David Zaslav's actual paycheck, it actually pay for 10,000 writers in 1 year, or for over 3 years, I should say, over 3 years. His contract for 1 year. If that shows you how much these producers are getting paid, and they're saying, oh, it's a tough time, but they're all getting raises, and everybody else is actually doing all the grunt work, and that they're like making these shows aren't getting their money. And that's not fair. And it shouldn't become a gig job. It can't become a gig job. I mean, that's not the way this is laid out, And it's like, if you want to be able to make a living doing it, you should be able to make a living doing it. You shouldn't have to like be a part-time job being a writer. That makes no sense. Makes no sense.
The film industry is based off of a class society system. And by that, I mean, it's based off the ancient medieval times of noble society and don't give a fuck about the rest.
Mm-hmm.
That's our industry.
Nuts.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Sabrina,
and
what do you
I don't think
about
people
these?
understand too. Yeah. Directors are writers, producers are writers. A
Yes.
lot of these people, they're right. James Gunn is a fucking writer.
Writer,
like these people. So it's like you're shitting on them as well. Like you're not just like trying to nip someone in the bud that's like an up and coming writer. You're shitting on everyone.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of these writers, showrunners, have to shut down too now. And it's like they're saying the same thing. Like we're WGA, we're producers, we're also showrunners. We have to shut down because
it's a classy way of showing support too.
We can't shoot, Sabrina, What do you think about the updates? Are you surprised that the studios are like suspending these contracts, or do you think this is just a natural progression for the strike moving forward?
I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, we all knew this was going to happen. So like the producers had to know that this is going to happen. I don't understand why we can't they've been talking about this since before the holidays. So I just don't know like why it's come to this. Like they could have negotiated before it was time to strike, which they did a little bit, but obviously not enough.
They started in March.
And what they're asking for is nothing crazy. Increased pay, shorter exclusivity deals, assurance about this AI bullshit, which they're worried about is going to take their jobs, staffing requirements on shows. It's all basic shit that they should have. And when the media shifted to streaming, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame, and they're not making the money that they used to make. It's all different because it was like this new media. Same thing with actors. The new media contracts are completely different. Where I think I've said this before, like where, stars of shows are not getting residuals on a streaming service, but if you were on network television, you would be making residuals. Like there's all these little things that happened when it shifted to new media because it was literally a new medium and people didn't know how it was going to go, how big it was going to be. And now that it is, like Jacob said, like the new platform, period, like you need to make up for that. It's not outlandish. It's not ridiculous. It's not asking for too much. I don't understand why or how they think it's okay to sit back and, get fat on all the spoils and not share it with anybody else. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm glad
that SAG is stepping up and, telling people to go and pick it. They have signs and shirts available if you want to go pick them up at certain places. There is a strike,
which they weren't doing at first, though.
Yeah. Well, if the thing is if you were contracted to work on a show as an actor, like you are supposed to go and work on the show. Like if they're shooting, you're supposed to be there because there is a clause in our SAG-AFTRA's contract. But aside from that, they are supporting the strike and they are giving out, signs and shirts and telling you where to go and what to do. So I'm glad that they stepped up and did that because as everyone knows, I'm fairly sour on SAG-AFTRA and their ability to roll over for producers whatever they want because they don't give a shit about us because they're all producers too. Yeah. So they're like Gabrielle Cartier, whatever the fuck her name is, 90210, who was 35 when she was shooting that. Like she's a producer and doesn't even act. So why would she give a shit about actors' rights? Like, I don't even understand. Like, just because you were in something 1,010 years ago and like did one Lifetime movie since then, like, how do you have the right to be like the president of SAG? And it needs to be working actors. It needs to be people who are dealing with this stuff all of the time, you know, and not people who are also producing. Like, that should be a conflict of interest, man. Like, you're an actor and a producer, and then you're bargaining, you're creating deals with the producers. That's going to benefit you. Like, that shouldn't be allowed. Like,
conflicts of interest and nepotism run rampant in the film industry.
They do.
Well, I mean, absolutely
100%.
nepotism. Like, but there's nothing you could do to stop that. And like, you know, there's plenty of cases of nepotism where people are super talented, and so like, whatever. I know you wouldn't have gotten a job if you weren't this person's daughter or this person's nephew or whatever the fuck. But you know, a lot of times they're very talented. I'm less upset about that because I mean, if you were a lawyer, you know, you would tell your kid to go to law school and hire them in your firm. If you were a groundskeeper, you know, you tell your kid, hey, I'm going to teach you how to freaking cut these plants your whole life. You come in, you take over my business. Like, nepotism is in every industry, everywhere in the world, you know?
But that's what I'm saying. The conflicts of interest, they are just as blatantly there as nepotism is. Like,
right, but I feel like that is something that you can fucking prevent. That's something you can
but you
can't prevent nepotism, but you can prevent a conflict of interest while you're bargaining, while you're negotiating a contract that is supposed to help the lot of your fucking union or guild or whatever the fuck we are, because we're not even a real union. They don't get us work. They don't do anything. Like, if you are negotiating our contracts, you should not have an interest on the other side. You know what I mean?
You shouldn't. They always do.
It's insane. So I am glad. My point is, I know that was a little bit off topic. That I'm glad that they are, you know, doing what is right and supporting, you know, the writers for the.
Well, it's even like Gabriella was negotiating our contracts last time. She's not even our president anymore, and they were paying her to do it.
But then she's like flying to Canada to avoid our rules to do her
to avoid our
movie.
rules
Like,
to create her own stuff.
It's ridiculous, honestly.
Like, to avoid SAG rules. It's not right. And that's, again, a problem with the logistics of how you can be president or who could be president. And it's just messed up. We've been doing that for years, and it hasn't changed. And the problem is people don't vote enough. It's a big problem. And the same people keep getting in. And also, it's a celebrity vote. But
it's also these people who are in charge, which is her, and like, you know, there's like two factions of SAG for anyone who doesn't know. But like, her faction of SAG are the people in charge. So they spam you with a million emails about vote for this, do that, look at this, look what we're doing, blah, 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 all this stuff. To where I have actual friends who are like, oh, I thought she was the person that we're supposed to vote for. And I'm like, no, she is a lunatic. It's like some like fascist shit going on here. Like, it's propaganda.
You mean they run it like our actual political system?
Like, I mean,
they do. They do.
So, but at least with our political system, you are getting both sides. You get commercials for both candidates. You know what I mean? Like, they just spam you with their shit. So you see all these other people on this other side, and you're like, who the fuck, what is Matthew Modine doing? I don't fucking know. Okay, let me vote for Fran Drescher because they told me to. Like, they poison your mind with propaganda in the fucking emails on their side, and the other shit that comes in the mail, people aren't fucking paying attention to that. Who looks at real mail anymore? They're like, ad, throw in the trash. You know what I mean? Like all that political shit that comes to you for
and those are our dues.
State comptroller or like whatever the fuck. You have 58 of those flyers. Garbage. Not looking at that. I research before I vote, of course, but like, it's like
not everybody does.
What SAG does is they keep whoever's been in charge, they keep that faction of power in charge for the past bazillion years. And it's never going to change because people who aren't educated and aren't involved in the system and how it works are not going to go out there, do the research that they need to do, and vote for who is actually good for our union. So it's just like passing on the baton to another person who is looking out for their own interests. It's very unfortunate.
But SAG would never strike like the WGA either. They always, because again, producer actors in that pocket, in that side, they're always going to go with their producer side as opposed to their actor side. Wrong
Speaking
people.
Of the WGA again, speaking of those guys, I am very impressed with what they're doing. We know that they've been going around picketing around the studios, but they're actually showing up at locations now.
Yep.
They're coming to people filming on location. Wherever there's a film happening in Los Angeles, they're showing up there and picketing there too. And it's caused, I know there was a show recently being filmed out here. I just found out that like they went ahead, they had plans to film for 2 more weeks. They went ahead and shut it down because they're like, they showed up at our location and people were like, I don't feel comfortable crossing the picket line now. And it's like, all right. So they shut down. So good for them. The guild is not fucking around. The writers are not fucking around.
They don't.
And I it's inspiring to see that, And I just wish that other unions would also take that kind of demand.
Step it up.
I have nothing bad to really say about my union right now. I'm new to it. I've enjoyed what's happened. We had negotiations and everything, and we got it settled before a strike. Strikes were in talks, but it all went through. Again, I'm still new to it, but from what I gathered, it seems that there have been a lot of benefits, a lot of good stuff. There are, of course, always something that you wish you could have negotiated better for, but that'll happen again later on. Whereas it seems like with the riders, they can't get what they want. And so they're like, well, we're tired of doing that. And they just shut everything down. And good for them for doing it. Because you need to at least, I know with my union, we made offers and counter offers were made, and it was reasonable. With the riders, they made offers, they made their demands of what they wanted and what was necessary, like we just discussed, and no counter offer was given. No other like, well, why don't we try this? No, they didn't give a shit. They just said, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad they're showing up and picketing the studios. I'm glad they're showing up to people on location and picketing them.
It's big. It's great.
It's got to be done.
Like,
and maybe
just
they
got
can
shut
teach,
down.
SAG how to grow a backbone.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the thing is, SAG's contract's up in June. SAG's contract's up. The DGA's contract's up in June.
Yeah, there's no strike for you guys. I'm sorry.
There's no. We'll quietly quit our negotiations. No one will even know about that. We'll quietly quit it and sign it. They'll be like,
I won't go quietly into the night. No, we'll go quietly into the night.
It
all
depends. It all depends on what happens. If WGA is still striking in June when our contract is up, we will strike too. We will strike too. If
I don't know.
Because you're piggybacking.
No, dude. Exactly.
But hey, take advantage while you can.
It might help everybody.
Moment.
If they come to an agreement before then, there's no way SAG will strike.
Oh yeah, no
but
way.
If they are still striking, SAG will jump on that bandwagon just because. But they would never do it on their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no way of knowing when this will actually end. And the thing is, again, they're just going to keep going for a while. We said before May 15th, there's a big picket going on in New York, Los Angeles, and in Georgia too. So they're planning for that. And it's going to be some time until this happens. The last one was 100 days. The one before that was 130 days. And that was back in the 80s. So if you look at there, you're looking at 3 months probably, and then maybe someone will cave, but we don't know. Again, there's no way of knowing when this will end.